Welcome to The Source. I'm your host, Arpita, and I'm here every week, whether it's a solo spiral or an unfiltered conversation with a guest who just gets it. This show is for you, me, and everyone who's just a little tired of doing the most. We're here to feel seen and heard, let our hair down a little, laugh a whole lot, and most importantly, learn a thing or two. Now, let's get to the source of it all. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Soarce Podcast, or the all-new Soarce Podcast, formerly known as the Modern Millennial Podcast. So if you've been here from the beginning, if you've been here from like the very first day in 2022, I believe, thank you for being here because I'm so grateful. We've recorded 55 episodes with incredible guests, all from my kitchen table, like virtually on Zoom. And I was 29 when I started that podcast. I'm 33 now. I like to say I'm older, I'm wiser, but with like an asterisk, like not that much wiser. And I'm just like a different person. And a lot of what I am today and the changes I've seen in myself have been through the Modern Millennial podcast. It's been through talking to those guests and going through the things that I have in my life over the last couple of years and kind of learning more about who I am. And through all of that change, through all of that learning and healing and growing came the source. And so just for like a quick second for anyone that's new here, a little background is the source is my new podcast. It literally stands for source, like the actual word that you spell Source, but with a little play because my name is Arpita, so the AR and the SO stands for me, represents my mom, whose name is Sona, and she is definitely like the creative inspiration in my life and has been like forever. And also, I love words that, mean different things. And so Source also stands for helping women soar, like helping us all soar through life and kind of finding our footing. And so that's kind of what the source is. That's the nature of like this rebrand, if you call it. Hopefully this is the last time I'm rebranding because like we've done this 3 times now and I'm tired. Just kidding. I love it. I love building things from scratch, and I've had so much fun kind of like concepting this. And when I tell you that this has been on my vision board for the last 2.5 years, like exactly what you're seeing, I'm not kidding. But there was a lot I needed to kind of get through myself, like to kind of the me versus me of it all, but then also figuring out my career and figuring out all these other things to physically be sitting here right now and recording this episode for you. So that's the background. Now, what is this podcast? This podcast is going to be very similar to the structure of TMM. It's part talk show, but we're now filming in studio, which is very exciting. If you're listening to this, nothing really changes for you. But if you're watching this, today you'll see me with my phone because everything lives on my notes app. So just have like a few things that I want to make sure that I don't forget. So we'll kind of be referring back to that. And it's also part solo spiral, which is what today is. It's me just talking about things that are on my mind. It's not meant to be like you're going to get your latest, hottest news on this podcast. That's never been my shtick. It's always about curation and it's always about perspectives and new ideas and reflection and kind of going through the things that I'm going through in my life. And that's exactly what it is. When I was 28, 29, things were important to me and there's things that are important to me now. And you'll see that kind of be reflected through the episodes. So that's kind of where we're at. You'll hear new episodes every week. And I encourage you to share your feedback, to share your thoughts. If there's someone you want me to bring onto the podcast, to bring onto the couch, let me know. And we'll make it happen because I'm doing this for me as much as I'm doing it for all of you listening. And so with that, let's get into today's episode. So I know I touched on this a little bit, but this past year, the last time I recorded an episode was, I think, January, February of 2024. And since then, every year something new has happened. And I think that holds true for all of us. Like life is never perfect. But I think as you get older, you realize that more and more. When we're younger, things are like, oh, amazing, rosy all the time. But as you get older, I started to realize that like, okay, one thing happened. And then next year will be better. And then next year rolls around and it's like, oh my God, now it's something else. And that's kind of been the biggest awakening of my life is that like, it's never going to stop. Life is always going to be highs and lows, ups and downs. It's never linear. And that's like the fun of it. But through that, finding your way out is like what makes us and what makes humans unique.
And for me, like this past year has been this really weird cocktail of growth, of burnout, of clarity, of deep healing, and a newfound sense of self. So, in true Soarce fashion, today's episode is a mix of both some really real reflections and some strong but loosely held opinions, because that's something that I've really grown to understand is that things I thought to be true when I was 22, 23, 27 don't really, feel the same to me now. And I've changed my mind on so many things. And I think that's what makes me this person that like adapts ideas quicker than maybe other people, because it's like it's not that serious. Like if you thought something, life takes you a different direction, you pivot and you change and you get there. But I want to start with something I saw on the internet literally this morning, and I took a screenshot of it. It's from one of those like meme accounts, so I don't know who wrote this. So whoever did, I'm crediting you, but I'm going to read it out loud. It says, "Every woman I know is either crying, plotting, dissociating, overthinking, moisturizing aggressively, setting boundaries, deleting texts, rewriting them in notes, going to therapy, skipping therapy, rage cleaning at 2 a.m., romanticizing her life, Googling hormone imbalances, online shopping, doom scrolling, dry heaving from burnout, faking fine, chasing soft mornings, drinking iced coffee like it's a coping mechanism, attacked, or doing silent revenge arcs in her head. And sometimes this all happens before lunch." Like, how perfect is that? Because is that not, as you're listening to this, like, is that not your like, wait, me? That's me. Like, that's my life. And I think as women specifically, and again, a lot of this podcast is geared towards women who are sort of in my life stage, because that's the only experience I know. But I know a lot of us go through this, but specifically to women, we're dealing with 5,001 things at once. And sometimes we have to kind of like shapeshift in every capacity. And I think that so much of that teaches us all these things, and none of us are experts. I know I'm not. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not like a profound life coach, but there's definitely things that I have learned in my life that I write down. Like if I go through something and I learn something from it, good or bad, I journal it and I put it on a notes app on my phone. And that's kind of literally what you're looking at here, which is, you know, 10-ish things, because there's definitely going to be more than 10, I've actually learned this year. And this has been an ongoing notes on my phone. I wanted it to be a Substack article, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to hold off on that till we record our very first episode, because some of this is just better when you kind of express it. So here's your kind of like list of things that I've learned. And each of these has to do with like me experiencing life the way I have. And I know so many of us because I've had multiple conversations with people in my life about these things. The first is that everyone's figuring it out. No one knows what they're doing. And there is a term that I like to use, which I'm Gujarati, and so it sounds like a Gujarati word, but it's not. It's called FAFO, and it stands for F around and find out. I don't want to curse on the podcast. My parents are probably going to listen, but it's literally FAFO, and that's what everyone's doing. Everyone's just like FAFOing their way through life, whether you're like a senior executive, whether you're CEO, whether you're, freaking Nobel Peace Prize winner, or whether you're us, like no one knows what they're doing and everyone's faking it till they make it. So if you ever for 1 second think that based on looking at someone's life or based on watching an interview they're doing or based on, something they post on social media, they have it together, let me just remind you they don't, because I know I get stuck in that sort of cycle as well. And a lot of that comparison just like pushes us further down. And that's something I'm really trying to work on, because I know that I used to listen to Tinks, who has a podcast, and she would always say comparison is the thief of joy. And that is so true. The more you compare yourself to others, the more you take the happiness away from yourself. So that is definitely lesson number one. The second is rest is like actually the real flex. Hustle is not the real flex. Being busy, oh, this pisses me off so much, is not the real flex. I hate when people are like, I'm too busy to do this, I'm too busy to do that. Like, no, that's just annoying, because you're actually not prioritizing what's important to you, and you're actually pushing yourself towards burnout. Taking time to rest, whether that means, for me, that means sometimes watching 8 hours of TV on my couch, scrolling and not moving to the point where my tailbone is like, get up off this couch before we disintegrate. True story. Or it's like actually taking time for yourself and having what I call like mindful rest, whether it's going for a walk, actually going to that yoga class or Pilates class, practicing whatever spiritual modality is important to you, whether that's religion, whether that's meditation, whatever that is, whether it's listening to a podcast. Like, rest is investing in yourself so that you kind of get that recharge you need, because hustle of it all, like, has not led us anywhere good. And we see it day in and day out. Like, it's leading to more health problems. It's leading to more stress, more anxiety, more people are on medication, more people are like, you know, using toxic coping mechanisms and behaviors. And we don't need any of that. The world is toxic enough and scary enough, and life is becoming shorter and shorter. We don't need more things to like push us over the edge to that level. Kind of in the same vein, something I've realized through my healing process is that creativity and healing, they can't coexist at the same time, at least for me. And what I mean when I say that is, like, when you're going through something and you're trying to process it and you're healing from it and you're trying to re-find yourself, you can't be your most creative self. You will get ideas and you will kind of like get seedlings of thoughts that you can write down or you can push yourself to do, but that is not the time to start business. That is not time to start a new job. That is not a time to like do something crazy, because you need to give yourself that space to kind of find who you are and go through and process what you're going through. There's a lot of things that I did wrong over the last few years where I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to do it, but I was like, I'm just going to do it now, because if not now, then when? And like, I'm getting older and this and that. And it's like, that actually took me a few steps back. That didn't actually propel me forward. And in the last year and a half, I actually gave myself the space to process, to go through what I was going through, to finally deal with some of the things that I had been kind of putting to the side. And I think that gave me this newfound sense of self. And I'm nowhere near like being perfect at it. And it's an ongoing process. And there will be something else. And you push through from that. But you have to give yourself the space to grow. And you also have to be your best friend. And I think that I love spending time with myself. Me time is supremely important to me, but this is a work in progress lesson for myself. I love being with my thoughts. I love spending time with myself, but I'm not always my best friend. I'm not always my biggest cheerleader. I'm trying to be. I'm definitely way better than I was a couple years ago. My 20s was just this like negative sort of like track in my mind playing constantly of like, you're not good at this. You're not good enough. You're not going to be able to do that. No, 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 no. And I'm definitely switching that now. And I see a little bit more confidence in myself. And maybe that just comes with being in your 30s. Maybe that comes with knowing yourself more. Maybe it comes with kind of like having things happen to you and seeing how you react to them. But I think that if you're in a space where you can kind of change that track in your mind to be your best friend and hype yourself up, like, nothing's going to bring you down. And a lot of that sort of like being your best friend comes from trusting yourself and being okay with failure and trying. I actually think some of the most interesting people in the world to me are the ones who have failed and the ones who continuously try. Success is one thing. Look, success is going to come no matter what you do, and success looks different to everyone. And I think like when people celebrate their wins, that's incredible and amazing. But it's when people talk about the things that didn't work out, the failures, and they kind of pick back up and tried. To me, that's what makes the human experience so beautiful, because we can do multiple things. And like for me, even just like sitting here recording this podcast, being like the modern millennial, it wasn't me. It didn't really work out. And so I found a way to pivot. I started it. I stopped it. I figured it out. I went back to work in corporate, and then that didn't work out. And so I'm pivoting now, and I started my own consultancy, and now I have clients. But 3 years from now, life can look totally different, and that's okay. It's about being nimble, and not every career field allows for that. And I totally recognize that. But that doesn't only have to do with your career. It can do with so many, it kind of spans every part of your life, even like when it comes to like self-growth. It's like maybe you tried meditation a couple years ago and you weren't good at it, but maybe then you just forgot about something and you're like, maybe I should start therapy. Or maybe it's not therapy. Maybe it's just like having a really great routine in the morning. So I think it's just finding what works for you, but knowing that like trying is a good thing and failing is also a good thing. And so that's something that I've had to sort of rewrite for myself as well. And within kind of that realm, as you're doing these things, you learn who you are. And another like one of the greatest lessons that I think I'm like, thank God I got here is like, you're not meant to be the same person you were. You're not meant to be the same person you were when you were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is. So much life happens to us, and so much of it happens to us. So we change, we grow, we evolve. And so I actually say this and I wholeheartedly believe it. If you're the same person, or you kind of like pride yourself in being the same person you were, I'm talking about mentally and through like internally 10 years ago, then I feel like you need to check in with yourself. You need to spend some time with yourself. Like, I'm not talking about physically. I'm saying like your ideas should shift and evolve, and you should feel like you're this more evolved person of who you are. And for so long, I think I was like in fight or flight, and I didn't really like process my emotions, and I just kind of was on autopilot. And when you're on autopilot, you can't really deal with anything else. You're just like go, go, go. Anxiety is at its highest, and you're just kind of like figuring things out as they come. But when you kind of turn that off and you feel all the feels, there's a lot of like social media therapy speak about being feelers and deep feelers and like people using therapy words. And it reminds me of that meme I see all the time, which like makes me laugh, which is like when the worst person you know starts using therapy words, like you've just like it's over for you and them. But it's like it's one thing to talk about being evolved, it's another thing to actually be evolved and do the work. And there's a difference there. And I think everyone needs to take a step back to kind of look at themselves internally, because the way you treat yourself and the way you think about yourself is also how you treat others. And it comes across in so many different ways. And I've had countless experiences with people where I'm like, are you for real? Like, are we being serious right now? Like, you didn't think this was a problem to say that or act like that? And it's not like a bad thing, but it's like everyone gets there at their own time. You know, some people get there earlier on, some people get there later on. But just like, keep that in mind. And something I struggle with, again, is like eldest daughter energy. And I talk about this a lot because I'm an eldest daughter of a, cultural household. And I've had a different experience because my family moved here like way later on from India. So I don't have like the true traditional, like, immigrant growing up in America experience. I don't relate to that as much, but for me, like a lot of my identity is shaped by being an eldest daughter. And that's not to the fault of my parents or my siblings or whatever it is. It's just, it's birth order. And it's also who I am at my core. And I've had to kind of unlearn a lot of those behaviors because no one asked me to do the things I was doing, but I did them anyways. And so I've had to really like tackle things like being misunderstood, stopping to people please. And I'm not there yet at all. It's learning to say no, learning to put myself first, because I will like, someone will call me right now and I will drop everything and like message them back right away or be there for them or like, do whatever it needs to do. But I'm too scared to ask for help. I don't like asking people for help. It's not that I'm too proud. It's just that like I was never that person because I prided myself when I was younger on being so independent and being like, able to tackle things on my own. But as I've grown up and through learning and spending time with myself and being in therapy and all of that, you realize that that's actually not a flex. Like you should be able to ask for help. You should be able to, reach out to others, to be vulnerable. And sometimes it's the people closest to you that it becomes harder to do. And I've worked on that a lot. And I think like being on this side of it, it really helps to understand like who's in your space and who's not. And that kind of brings me to the fact that like friendships in your 30s look very different too. Like we all have so many different sets of friends. We all have people who we hang out with, people who we, share our soul stories with, people who we grew up with, and that's okay. For the longest time, I was like, oh my God, like everyone needs to be my best friend because like I have to tell everyone everything. And I learned from my mistakes for that because sometimes not everyone's rooting for you. Not everyone is in your corner and in the way you want them to be. And it's okay to have friends that you just hang out with. Or it's okay to have friends that maybe you just travel with, maybe you just talk to once in a while. And you can have different buckets for friendships, but sometimes you have to understand energies and intentions. And people get uncomfortable when you change and when you grow, and they're not used to that version of you. They're not used to the part of you that's like, oh, she's not the same person she was. And now we don't know what to do with her. We don't know how to act around her. And that makes people uncomfortable. And so that's something that, again, I'm still learning. But I think one of the greatest awakenings has been like, you should be making friends every year, every stage of your life. Like I've had so many friends in my life right now that I didn't even know 2 years ago. And this is something that, I've seen and learned from my parents. Like they, you know, I've constantly introduced new people into their life, and they are, a good example of like, building that network and having a social, kind of like a social network, like an IRL version, not like a digital version, where you can lean on people and rely on them for different things, but you know what you're going to them for. And then the last few things, because now I feel like I'm giving a sermon here, is routine. Routine is sexy. I would always run around from routine. I would be like, you know what? No, every day should be different. Every day should be like so exciting. And like, I want to drink 5 cups of coffee and feel so jittery and like take on the world. But what I've realized is that the romanticization, I can't say that word, of life comes from routine. Like routine is what makes it sexy. Is what makes your life, moving through each day. And it's everything that happens in those in between moments. It's not that big event. It's not that time you dressed up. It's not that major podcast shoot. It's what happened before that. It's the lead up to that. And like I always think about my wedding, right? Like my wedding, I kind of sometimes honestly forget some of those big events, but what I remember is the lead up to them, all the little moments that my family and I were like in our home together, prepping together, having those meals, like having everyone over, staying up late, like dance practices, sangeet practices, whatever. That's like to me what I remember when I think about my wedding. And that kind of applies to so many aspects of our life because it's not about the big, it's about the small. And I think that's the routine of it all, And I think you realize this when you get older, because when you're like 22, you're like, oh my God, like it's that meme where it's like bus, club, another club, another club. It's like, no, that's not what life is now. Now you're like, if I can make it out one time a week, that's it. That's all I'm doing. Less is always more. That's truly what it is. And the last thing I've learned is I used to think that being nostalgic for being younger, being nostalgic for the 90s and the 2000s, and being nostalgic for my college days and the music and all of that was like a bad thing. Because I read something once that was like, oh, nostalgia is like, that means that you're not happy with your life right now. And this is also another side note where like not everything you read is true, because that's actually such a like false take. I think nostalgia, something I've learned is like, it's proof that you've lived life and you've lived life happily and you're kind of reminiscing and you're craving a time in your life where you really felt like yourself and you want to bring that theme across. Because I think I'm a deeply nostalgic person. Like I'm always listening to 2000s music and 2010s music and like, thinking about my days on the dance team I was in college, or like, thinking about growing up in Bombay or whatever it is. And it's like, that's who made me who I am. Those are the experiences, the cultural experiences, the travel experiences, the life experiences that like have made me the person that is sitting in front of you today or speaking to you. And for all of us, like think back to a time in your life that you're like, yeah, that was a moment that will live with me forever. And I think that's such a beautiful way to be like, we've lived life. Like as humans, we have the capacity to feel those emotions and to have those memories. And so nostalgia will always be who I am. And I've learned to kind of bring that into my life in small ways these days and kind of recreate moments that make me happy. So that's the end of my like sermon. If you're still here after all of that, now you're in for the fun part, because this is like the very like hot take sections of it, and then we'll wrap with just like some fun sources of joy. So if you're still listening, let's like deep dive into this. This is a safe space, and I'm going to hold your hand through this. This is a safe space for people who do not watch Love Island. And I know the season or whatever you want to call it just ended, but like I will never be a Love Island person. Dating shows, especially like those, are just not for me. And I'm talking, as a reality TV enthusiast when it comes to the Real Housewives kind of world. But something I've learned is like not every TV show is for me, and that's okay. The whole world's talking about Love Island, but it's not me. It's not going to be me. Skincare will forever be my Roman Empire. I will talk about it. I will overspend on it. I will gatekeep nothing, but I will never, ever blanket statement like, you need to try this because I have experienced that so hard and like reeled from like trying things that people have told me to, and my skin has hated me for it. There's quite literally nothing that brings me more joy than buying a cup of coffee or a very good cup of coffee that you make at home. And we need to do a whole other episode on my learnings as a newfound coffee drinker. I finally crossed over from like put the coffee in my veins so I'm jittery to the point where like I'm running around like a crazy person, and I'm finally like at a 1 cup a day space in my life. But oh my God, like if I hear someone say that matcha is better than coffee, stop listening to the podcast. Just turn it off right now, because that will also never be me. And also, we need to talk about how matcha has now seeped its way into every single food item that we eat. Why is there a matcha flavored thing for everything? I'm so sick of it. And then Dubai chocolate. And now the other day I saw something that was like a Dubai chocolate labubu. Like, these words, I can't. Like 5 minutes ago, none of us knew what these words meant. And everything is becoming such a fast-paced trend that it makes me want to throw up. And like, can we just take things for what they're supposed to be? Like, not everything needs to be something. And my last thing on the matcha is, everyone I know that's a matcha drinker in my life loves coffee and prefers it. And actually, I have proof for this, because all my cousins and like my sister-in-law that loves matcha, they're like, oh my God, nothing does it for me like coffee. And I'm like, see, matcha tastes like grass. This is matcha slander right here, okay? Also, more slander is, if I see anyone in my life wearing the Prada Kolhapuri sandals, I'm coming for you. I don't want to do a hot take there. I don't want to go down. We all know, we all see the same things. We all see Scandinavian scarf. We all see the same things, and I feel the same way. But this really pissed me off. If you're going to take the Kolhapuris and make them like $1,000, you better give credit where credit is due, Prada, and send me a pair. I'm just kidding. I'm never going to wear them. And then the last piece of this whole puzzle, and probably the most important lesson I think I have learned over the last year and a half, is that everyone needs to stop being so obsessed with protein. I am so sick of it. If I see one more reel, one more TikTok, if my mom sends me one more piece of content that's like, this is where you can get more protein. As a vegetarian who doesn't like eggs, first of all, it's freaking hard for me, okay? So first, let's go through that. I barely have just started to like cottage cheese and gotten used to that texture. We need to, like, God did not put us on this earth to talk about protein this much. I'm telling you, we'll be okay. I get it. It's important. It's good for our bodies. We need it. We need to move on. We need to talk about other things. And isn't that right? Like, I feel like that is the biggest lesson I've learned. So this will forever be a silent protein podcast. I'm going to eat cottage cheese. I'm going to eat protein, but I'm not going to talk about it because it's okay to. So once again, I'm going to hold your hand through this. If you're going to talk about protein on the internet or in conversations with friends, let's talk about it. Let's take a step back. Let's ask ourselves, do we need to have this conversation? Can we talk about something else? And almost always the answer is yes. All right, well, that was kind of like my spiel. We're going to end with what my source of joy is today. And honestly speaking, my source of joy is just like, I am having an out-of-body existential moment sitting here with this camera set up in front of me with like this light. I know if you're listening to this, you don't know, but I have this amazing production crew in front of me. And I'm just like, this is a pinch me moment. So this is my source of joy today. And if you're listening to this, like, just a big thank you. And I'm excited to have more fun with you all. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure to leave a rating or review and share it with a friend. It goes a long way. Also, subscribe to our Substack for more fun and to stay updated on all things. We'll see you next week. Until then, sending you all the good vibes.